Hello and welcome. Sorry, I've been going through a little bit of a coughing fit like the last 15 minutes. Hopefully, I'm getting over it. But I'm kind of just been coughing a lot. Hopefully I'll get better. Yeah, we're back tonight, and we're going to be looking at some more of the Witcher RPG. Last night we talked about being a mage or a druid or a priest in the Witcher RPG and all of the wondrous magic there is to behold. Everything from casting spells to invocations to hexing somebody. I think we talked about one of the hexes was making somebody's balls itch. The Witcher RPG magic system is very robust and rich with content. Tonight we're going to be going over almost the other side of that coin, and we're going to be talking about crafting and alchemy in The Witcher. And I'll be honest with you, when I play video games, crafting has never really been my favorite thing to do. Like, I've just never been into it for the most part. I just like going and killing stuff for the most part, doing quests and killing stuff. I just never really got into it. But when I saw in a tabletop RPG that had crafting in it, I was very interested because I wanted to know how they were going to do that. I couldn't really figure out how does that work in an RPG. Luckily for me, the book answers that right off the bat, and it asks us right here in the very beginning. It says, why should I craft? And it tells us that a craftsman can be invaluable to a party's success because gear is super expensive, and repairing gear takes time and money, and you have to find the right person to do it. It's better to have somebody in your group that can, if you get your eye on the sword you've been looking for, well, maybe you have this person in your group that actually make that sword for you for like a third of the normal cost. So you can take that money and go buy more gear. And so that helps the party. And that same person that crafted your sword can help fix it when it breaks. Crafting also lets you make the most out of recipes that you might come across. Your party might come across some different artifacts and recipes. And if you have a craftsman in the group, then that'll help you make the most of that. It says that there's tons of technologies to discover, old and new. Some of them, lost to the ages that need to be recovered. And a craftsman or alchemist can help you do that. The craftsman can give the party amazing benefits like alchemical bombs and traps, poisonous blade oils, and runes that help you enchant your weapons. It piqued my interest a little bit about being a craftsman. So I'm like, okay, sounds interesting. But how does it work? It tells us that the process of crafting weapons and armors and enhancements and also traps breaks down into three basic steps. First, you determine if you have the right diagram. And then secondly, you have to have the right components for that. And then third, you have to make a crafting roll. You have to have the right diagram. And so this is kind of like a recipe on how to make something. Every tool that you can make or buy, there's a diagram that explains how to make it, what ingredients, how to refine them, how long it takes, and how to assemble the parts. If you have this physical diagram in front of you, you're going to get a +2 to crafting check to make the item. And because you have these explicit instructions right in front of you, and you're less apt to forget things. Now, secondly, you have to make sure that you have the right ingredients. And if you have that diagram right in front of you, you're going to remember, okay, I'm going to need X amount of this or X amount of that. And it even tells us an example of, to make an iron longsword, you would need 1 timber, 2 iron, 3 leather, and you must have all of those to begin crafting it. You can't just okay, well, I've got 2/3 of everything. Let me go ahead and start doing it, and then somebody else will bring me the wood later or whatever. You have to have it all when you begin to craft. And then finally, you're gonna make the crafting roll. So crafting requires specific tools. Crafting tools allow you to craft armor or armor enhancements, weapons, traps, glyphs, and runes. And then there's also forges, which are required for any recipe with metal components. You can buy a tinker's forge to take with you and work while on the road. So if you want to fix stuff on the road, you can do that. You don't have to actually go to a town. But each diagram will list, like I said, how long it takes to craft and the difficulty for crafting that item. So it's going to give you this DC check, right? The difficulty check. If you succeed, then you made the item. If you fail, then you did something wrong and the product is unusable. Now, if you do fail, don't worry. There's a chance to make a recovery roll. Right after you fail, you have one chance right after the failed roll to salvage some of the materials from the project. So you can make another crafting check at the same difficulty level, the same DC level. If you succeed, you can salvage half of the material that you used in your project, rounding up. So if it took 2 timber, then you get 1 timber back from that. So you're going to lose something, but you don't lose everything. So you can memorize as many recipes as you have points in your intelligence stat. So if you have a high intelligence stat, and let's say you have 8, well, you can memorize 8 things, and it's just like you having that right in front of you. So you go back and you'll start looking at the crafting components. So if you need ashes for something, well, you know you're going to need fire and burned items. The quantity, you'll roll a 1d10, and then you have to roll against a forge check to see if you're going to be able to pick that up. And also it has the rarity. So if it's found everywhere, if it's common, or if it's rare or something like that, it has that type of different stuff in there. And then they have the diagrams. So and it's broken down just like the spells were before, broken up into 3 different skill levels. Same thing happens in crafting, where you have novice, journeyman, and master diagrams for you. Some of this you have to make just the components for. So if you wanted to make, a hand axe, you might need to make something back over here that is a part to make the hand axe. You might have to find, leather and wax to make hardened leather, which then you would use to make, a hunter's falcon, later on. And so you have to make this to make that. Most of the stuff that you can make was covered in the armor and equipment section that I went over. So all the details of all the things that you can make, right there in the book. And then finally we get to fixing and salvaging. We know kind of how to make stuff for the most part now. How do we fix it? How do we salvage stuff? And it tells us that we can disassemble weapons and armor to salvage some of the material used to make it. When you disassemble something or you salvage something, let's say you had some old broken armor off some, creatures that you were fighting, and you decided to carry it with you, you can salvage that and you'll get back half of each type of component it took to make. And so if it took, 2 steel ingots, then you're going to get 1 back from the salvage. At least the stuff that you see around you can be salvaged. And then when you go to fix things, it's just like crafting, okay? Except for first you're going to do the salvage. So if this sword is broken, then first we're going to salvage it, get half the stuff out of it, and then we're going to make sure that we have the rest of the materials that it would take to make the thing again, including the stuff that we salvaged. Make sure that we have the right tools for it, and then we're gonna make a roll to see if we can fix it. When you're trying to fix something, when you do your roll, it's a little bit different than just crafting the item. It gives you the crafting difficulty -5, so that you have a little bit better chance to craft something or to repair something than you have to make something new. And that makes sense, right? Because you're not creating it from scratch. You're just fixing it. And then it talks about if the weapon, let's say you have a sword or a helm or something like that, and it has armor enhancements on it, or runes or glyphs or anything like that, for each enhancement or glyph, the difficulty will go up by 2. So you can fix stuff, and you can fix it on the fly. However, you just have to keep that in mind, that the more runes and glyphs and things it has, your difficulty is going to go up by 2. That's pretty much how the crafting works. Now, when it starts talking about the alchemy system, it's very, very similar to the way crafting works. First, you have to determine if you have the formula. Then you determine if you have the right components, and then you make the roll. So the formula, just like the diagram in crafting, when you have the formula in front of you, you're going to get a +2 to the alchemy skill roll. You can still memorize them and things like that. You're going to have to make sure that you have the right ingredients, and the formula is going to tell you what type and number of the alchemical substance that you need in order to create the product. It isn't really particular about what raw material that you use, just that you have enough of it and in the proper proportions. Just like crafting armor and weapons, where you need either crafting tools or a forge or something like that, in alchemy you're going to need an alchemy set. So it looks like it's fairly small. I would assume that you could take it with you, and it looks fairly portable, so I wouldn't see that as being a problem. You got to make sure that you carry your alchemy set around with you, and then when you roll for the success or failure, the same type of thing where you're going to roll against a difficulty check that's given to you right there in the formula. If you fail just exactly the same as in crafting armor or weapons, then you can do the recovery roll where you can attempt to recover one of the substances used in the formula. And so I'm going to go over substances right now, because substances are a little bit different than in crafting. When you're looking at doing alchemy, there's going to be 9 different substances, alchemical substances needed to craft alchemy, and they all have these little symbols right next to them if you look over here. And each of these symbols are used in substances or when you're making alchemy stuff. And so if you fail, you're able to recover one of these substances. It's kind of neat the way they did it. When you start looking at when you look at your menu, though, it's a little bit frustrating because it might have, and these are a little bit easier to see, it might have one of these, 2 of these, and 1 of these symbols, and that's it. It's kind of neat because it doesn't matter where it comes from, but you have to continually look up, okay, what does that symbol mean? Okay, that's, Aether. Okay, what's this symbol mean? Okay, that's Cubrith. All right, and then you have to look over here and figure out, okay, what is vitriol? What is in there? And so it tells you this substance comes from all of these items. So a crow's eye or a ghoul claw both have vitriol in it. And if I'm able to get a crow's eye or a ghoul claw, then I will have this vitriol substance with me that will allow me to make some of these recipes over here. So it doesn't care where it comes from. So as long as it's in here underneath the substance, then I'm going to be able to transform that and make some of these items. And they have a list of alchemical items that you can make. And I went over some of these before, but they have venom, which is like poisons that do damage to people, exploding type stuff. They have chloroform, where it forces anyone that breathes it has to make a check against stun at -2, or they're going to be unconscious until they make the save. So all types of cool stuff that you can make. So I don't know if it's out there anywhere because I'm a total newbie, but it's something I've been thinking about a while, going through these RPGs the last month or so, is, I can imagine, like, in most gaming groups, 1 or more of the players, might want to play when everybody else can. Let's say somebody works during the day and other people work at night or whatever. They have different off days. And I don't want to get ahead of anybody, but I still would like to do something that would go towards our campaign. So I don't know if this is out there or not, but I think it'd be cool if there's some type of mini game that could be played, like as individuals, that would help you, I don't know, like store up stuff or increase skills or something between the play sessions, right? And just to me, that sounds like that'd be a fun thing to do. I could see like something like crafting or alchemy, or skilling up or making weapons or traps. That type of thing seems like it would lend itself very well to this type of individual mini game type play. I don't know exactly how it would work, but I would like to see that in a RPG, something that you could do to gear up to work on that would be a little bit more fun than just like, hey, I'm rolling dice and oop, I failed, oop, I won, and over again. Even having some type of, where you're practicing spells and on dummies or something, and you're working on skill checks, and you might get a fraction of an improvement point after like 15 minutes of playing or something. And I don't know exactly how that would work. I'm not a mechanics person, but I would like to see something like that in some game somewhere, to where I can still kind of invest in the game and invest in the party, and it would make a huge difference, but something that I could do in my spare time that would still invest in the party when we're not all together. I just think that would be neat. But yeah, that's about it for me tonight on the alchemy and the crafting. If anybody's got any questions, you can go ahead and throw them in the chat there, or you can leave them in the comments, and I'll check it back later and answer them if I can. But next time we're going to be going over the combat in the RPG The Witcher, and it looks to be pretty in-depth and pretty intense, and I'm really looking forward to learning about it and then coming back and showing you what I've learned. Hit me with a like on here, and let me know that you're here. I appreciate it, and we will see you all on next time.